Hey everyone, welcome back to the Boring Life. As you can see, if you watched episode one, we've got a different setup now. I am actually using my podcast gear. I figured I have it, might as well use it. And it's also it was a realization that I thought using my AirPods would make better audio quality. I thought the mic was good, but I think using my podcast equipment would be way better. I have it, so might as well. I just didn't do it before because it was just going to be more of a hassle for editing purposes, I thought. But I ended up having to download a separate editing software because the editing software on my phone wasn't good enough. So some of you might be wondering, did he buy a camera? Does he have a DSLR? No, I have none of that. I am recording everything on my iPhone right now with a tripod that I use just for recording my weightlifting videos. And so it's a very ghetto format. It's very low budget. And it's a front-facing camera, so it's probably even lower resolution. But I do it because I just want to know that I am kind of somewhat looking at the screen when I'm talking to you. Yeah, so hopefully the audio quality is better. It might be a little more sensitive, but you know, yeah, I just hope it's better. And so, yeah, thanks for tuning back into The Boring Life. The practical purpose of this vlog is to document the journey of me building out OMD Ventures, which is just my huge content platform and what I hope to be this bigger business of mine that just fulfills my dream. And I call it The Boring Life because I think generally most processes of building anything is extremely boring. I noticed that myself and fellow other entrepreneurs, we just do the same thing over and over again, and there's nothing that much really exciting. I'll catch up with people, like I'll catch up with my parents every week, and they'll say, "So what's new?" And I'll tell them, "Nothing much. I sent out the same 30, 40 emails to people, and you know, had a bunch of meetings, sat down, did a lot of writing. That's practically it." But people have been wondering on my podcast and just my newsletter subscribers have been wondering, what do you do? Keep us updated. And so I just figured I'll just keep you guys updated on a weekly basis of what I do. So you might already know this. I'm just repeating myself for potentially new viewers. I figured the format I'd use this time. So last time it was just very all over the place. So I thought the format I'd use this time is I'll go through what I did to be wise, what I did to be wealthy, and what I did to be healthy. And so it's just the whole kind of Benjamin Franklin notion of the goal of every human being is to be wise, wealthy, and healthy. And I'm paraphrasing. So for wise, just talking to the systems I have, reading. So I think I read about 100 pages this week. So I went past my internal goal of 10 pages per day. So that was successful. I'm still reading the Tony Robbins book, Awaken the Giant Within. It's okay so far. I'm not too ecstatic about it. It doesn't really draw me in as much, but I feel that it's more like I'm kind of still searching for something there because a bunch of people that I admire have read it and have spoken great things about it. So I'm just constantly reading it through to see, okay, maybe could be other stuff there, but it might also be that a lot of books that I've read have based their knowledge off of Tony Robbins, like a lot of different kind of self-help books, but so far it's nothing that's drastically new. So that's that on the reading front. A key quote that I really enjoyed, it just clung to me, and it also clung for my girlfriend as well, is an Albert Einstein quote, and he says, I'm just going to read it off. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. So the measure of intelligence is the ability to change. And that it's just such a smart quote. But I just really liked it because I think the only constant is change, and I just feel that even in a daily or weekly basis, I change my mind on a lot of different things that I've already decided on, and I think sometimes I feel that I shouldn't, and it makes it hard to change my mind. But I think it's a constant struggle. But I think it's about being okay with it, and also knowing why you're making a change, and being cognizant of the fact that you're making a change. If you make a change based on new facts, then you're doing what a prudent, pragmatic person would do. I also learned about the existence of Bill Campbell. He was the coach for like Steve Jobs and Eric Schmidt at Google, and uh, Marissa Mayer when she was at Google, and I think after when she went to Yahoo as well. And he's like this quiet person who's the coach for all these tech giants. I think he was also the coach for Jeff Bezos as well of Amazon. And so yeah, he's just had his hand in everyone's kind of growth. And so that was really fascinating to hear about this person that isn't really in the public eye. No one really gives him that much credit, but he just did all this stuff for free, pro bono, and just learning about his philosophy of helping all these leaders create these great companies. So that was really fascinating, and I honestly just got very excited to learn about him. So I guess this just happens when you care about similar things as that person. So that's kind of on the wise front. On the wealthy side, this is more about, I guess, the progress I make with OMD Ventures. So let's see. This week, so the week of, what's that, April 7th to April 14th, or April 8th to April 14th. The essay I wrote was called Scaling Human Capital, and it's an essay literally about what it says. It's about scaling human performance inside an organization, and generally the twist is that you just can't scale it, and the idea roughly is about just challenging the idea that people just want everything to be efficient, and generally tools can get you so far. There's a limitation. Tools kind of get you from 0 to 80, but the real material difference of mastery comes in from getting from 80 to 99, and that stuff's not scalable. And it's an essay just depicting that inside organizations and how leaders have to really just change their mindset around that instead of trying to be super efficient and somewhat kind of lazy about it. And the podcast episode that went out in the week was with Jamie Rosenblatt. He's the principal at OMD Ventures. It was a super fun podcast. His background was really fascinating for me. He was a philosophy major, and he eventually became a lawyer for the tech industry, and then eventually became a venture capitalist. But I just loved the way that his mind worked as someone who had a philosophy background, and it kind of proved my point that I think being a philosophy major in undergrad is way more valuable than other like typical business majors. I know some people can make the argument that, oh, but what about a technical one like coding? Yeah, I can totally see that too, but I don't know, like you're gonna live 60, 80 years longer after graduating, so I don't really see the benefit of learning a language that's going to be obsolete in 10, whereas I think philosophy teaches you how to think properly, and that can continuously compound longer. Debatable though. I haven't done neither. So something really cool was that I was learning about these different so I had an issue with freaking Google Play Music because it wasn't ingesting my podcast episodes correctly, and so I think some of the episodes were not loading, so I've been battling with this Google support desk, and that also happened with Apple, but Apple doesn't have a support desk. I'm just trying to get help from like the forum frontline. It's just a whole mess from the operational standpoint. I think it's fixed now. But anyhow, on that crusade, I learned about how there's this Android. So Android has all these different podcast players, unlike Apple. And apparently one of them is called Cast.fm, and it's, I think, one of the better podcast platforms to listen to stuff on. I'm not on Spotify yet, so I will eventually go on it. But until then, Cast.fm, I guess, for the Android listeners. But I noticed a review on it, which is new because typically Android listeners couldn't leave reviews. And I read it, and it was by a lady, assuming lady. Her name is Emily, and she wrote it, I think, from Hanoi, Vietnam. And she was referring to a Post-it note I had left in a Post-it note cafe in Hanoi. And she was saying, oh, I found your podcast from this Post-it note. And that just was amazing because I remember being in that cafe, and I wrote it on a Post-it note. And this entire cafe is just covered in Post-it notes, like table, the wall, the chairs, everything's covered in Post-it notes. And I just wrote it, just slapped it on the front of the table, the middle of the table, and I thought, no one will probably read it, but I figured, why not? A lot of people are leaving their own advertisements for their own blogs and businesses, and I didn't pay attention to any of it, but I thought maybe someone will pay attention to me, and somebody did, and someone actually wrote an amazing review on it. So I guess guerrilla marketing works in some kind of way, so that was really cool. It honestly kind of made my day for a good moment. yeah, I have to really try to celebrate my wins a little more. But yeah, other than that, I'd say, how many emails did I send this week? That's generally what I do. I wake up every morning, I write for an hour, at least an hour, and then I spend about another hour doing a lot of investment stuff. And then the rest of it is just constantly trying to execute on, you know, doing the work. And a lot of that includes sending a lot of emails, because now I'm trying to work with different startups and organizations to grow the platform itself, but also focus on doing the work that I want to do, which is actually help companies build out organizational design and work on the human capital side. And so I sent out, I think, close to 24 emails this week. And 24 emails sent out. I think the return rate's 50%, 50 to 75%. It's not that much of a difference. And it's also because some were follow-ups, some were new reach outs that were really nice people who reached back out with. But yeah, that's basically it. As long in terms of investments, stock market's been kind of doing really well lately. I think the old adage of you become a better investor by investing more is true, because you constantly go on this emotional roller coaster ride, and no matter how many books and how many interviews of Buffett and Munger I've just like brainwashed myself with over the last 4 years, it just still isn't as easy when it's just this kind of hindsight's 2020 bias. I've had one investment, so I'm not going to talk about the specific stocks, just because this is, I don't know, just some disclosure stuff. I don't want to be giving investment advice, but I had one stock that I owned for about 4 years, and it went up 65 times, 65x. Those are kind of close to once in a lifetime opportunities, and I allocated such a small amount of money that it came out to just, making like 4 digits on it. So that's one that I always, like, it comes back from time to time thinking, man, I could have retired by now with that if I allocated a good chunk of money 4 years ago. And then recently I had another one. This time I allocated a relatively bigger portion than before, but even then, it's these investments I've made that have nothing to do with my traditional way, like my traditional strategy. There's no fundamentals. It's very hype driven, and it's just part of this 20% allocation I have for these kinds of more venture style bets. And this thing, since I've known it, it's tripled. And it's tripled within the last 4 months. And so that's been crazy for me to also just contain in my emotional mind. And once again, it's also not a mistake of omission, because I did invest in it, but omission in terms of just poor capital allocation. It's not poor capital allocation, I guess, because I would never have known that it would triple in 4 months, right? You just can't time the market, and it just doesn't make any sense, I guess, from my point of view. But yeah, if I put all my money in there, I could have, had a nice chunk of change. Not yet, I guess, like really retire, but I could, I don't know, if I could go back in time, yeah, I'll pull out debt and go on margin and just bet heavy for that triple. But yeah, so those two investments have been kind of grinding my mind the past week, and I know I shouldn't really care about it, but yeah, sometimes it's hard to let go, and I think you just have to constantly invest more to get used to it. And so that's on the wealthy side. On the healthy side, I think there's a lot of my system is just very established at this point. I've been on an intermittent fast for the last, I think the count on my app is around 280 days. So I do the 16-hour fast, time restricted eating window, not really technically fasting, because it's not really a couple days. I think you have to go past 24 hours to actually be fasting. So time restricted eating, 16 hours of not eating, and 8 hours of eating. I'm pretty loose with it. I'm not as crazy about it like some people are, just because based on the research I've read, there's nothing that's really purely conclusive, and it's a different kind of window that different researchers have been testing for different kinds of effects. I think I wrote about it in more detail in some of my newsletters. You can go check it out. You can control find it. But long story short, it's I try to just do 16 to get the full effect of everything, and generally though I won't start drinking coffee until I surpass the 14-hour mark, I think. And at the bare minimum, even if I'm on vacation and I'm not really strictly adhering to it, I'll do 12 hours. So this week, I think my average was 17.2 hours per week, 17.2 hours per day on average. I think I missed one day. It might have been a Saturday where I think I did 15.6 hours. Close enough. So that was on the time restricted eating front. Training was great, actually. I'm actually going to attach my training videos at the end of this as part of the ending credits. So check it out if you really want to see me lift a lot of heavy, well, not that heavy stuff right now, but just lift things. Some of my Instagram fans have been asking, "Oh, you don't post your lifting videos anymore," and that inspires me. So I'm just gonna post it here because I deleted Instagram. That's a whole different story, but yeah. So training's been going phenomenal. I was honestly in a slump for the last 4 months, and this week has been great. Maybe it's because it's all really a lightweight, but it's been great, and I've been feeling good, and so that's what matters. So I lift 4 times a week. Met all that this week. I did 2 weeks of cardio and 2 days per week of cardio, and then lifting heavy 4 days per week. And then I also did long sauna right after the cardio days, so 20 minutes, I think 20 to 25 minutes each at 85 plus degrees Celsius. And then nutrition wise, same old. I practically drink the same smoothie every day for 6 days of the week. I find anything heavy really impacts my afternoon lifting sessions, so I just opt for the first meal to be a smoothie, have almonds, avocado, blueberries, banana, protein shake, and sometimes flaxseed. My girlfriend introduced me to it, and it's pretty good. So I used to have spinach in it, but my grocery store stopped selling spinach, so now I use flaxseed as the fiber alternate. So that's been same old. I reintroduced bagels into my diet. It's been primarily very croissant heavy, but now I'm switching to a different pastry. So I'm loving this bagel thing lately, so I might continue that on. It's a great combo with the smoothie. It's just great. And all that butter is just amazing. That's the healthy part. And then on the fun part, I don't think I said I'll talk about the fun part, but I've had a fun part. So I watched a hockey game today. Not live. I watched it live, but not in person, just on TV. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in the playoffs against the Boston Bruins. And as a Vancouverite, my memory of the Boston Bruins is when they beat us in the Stanley Cup Finals and we had a riot. Yeah, I was in Vancouver when the riot happened. I was with my friends, and yeah, that was crazy. And so that's my memory of the Boston Bruins. And since I stopped playing ice hockey back in high school, I haven't watched a full game of hockey. I just didn't give a shit about the sport after that. So it's been 7 years, close to it, since I watched a full game of hockey. And so I watched it this week when we first played the Bruins, and we won. And so that was a really fun game. And so I think I might actually start watching it a little more, maybe just during playoff season. Yeah. So that's what happened for the fun part. But yeah, other than that, same old boring week. So thanks for tuning in, and yeah, if you want to see more boring stuff and just follow along on my boring journey, please tune in again next week. So bye bye.